Good morning. This morning I'm going to be speaking to Lisa of All About the Cakes. So Lisa will be logging on in about 2 seconds time, I think. I need to say a thank you to Lisa first of all, because Lisa very kindly gave me some lemon curd a couple of days ago and dropped it off at the door. And according to my husband, it was the best that he's ever tasted, being like a little bit of a connoisseur of lemon curd. Good morning, Lisa. Can you hear me?
Hello.
Hello, good morning. I was just saying, Lisa, before we start, I just need to give you a thank you because you kindly dropped off some lemon curd at my door. And my husband really, really likes lemon curd. And when he tried it later on, he actually said it was the best that he'd ever tasted.
Oh, thank you.
And that is praise, love, let me tell you, because young fella doesn't praise anything very often at all.
Aww.
So there we go, top marks. Okay, well, obviously, I've kind of given it away like sort of a little bit. Let me just tell you first of all, Lisa, what it is that you actually do.
I make cakes. Yeah, I make cakes. I make all my fillings and everything to go with them, for weddings, birthdays, just any excuse for cake, really.
And anything at all cakey fine, then you're the person to speak to.
Yeah, I've just learned how to make macaroons.
Oh, right. Nice.
So yes, so I do those as well. So like if you're having like a buttercream cake on the outside with you can have macaroons, meringue, marshmallows, even little chocolatey bits on it just to decorate it. And then a lot of people are having like cake toppers or a bit of drizzle on the side. So yeah, I just thought it would be easier, especially at the moment in time, to try and make everything that goes on it. Not yet mastered marshmallow, but yeah, so that I've not got to say to somebody, oh, sorry, you can't have that because I've not got it.
I'm sure it's only a matter of time before you actually master marshmallow. I'm very impressed about the macaroons because, as you know, back in the day, I used to make wedding cakes myself, and did actually have a bash at trying to actually make macaroons, and they're not easy, are they?
No. Lisa, really from Elegant Rose Cakes, told me where to go for a really good recipe. So, so I did thank her for giving me the recipe, which was really nice. So
yeah, that is nice, isn't it? When you sort of help each other and then work together, isn't it? Yeah, it's lovely. It's lovely. Yeah. Okay, Lisa, tell me, whereabouts are you based?
Based in Rutland, in the middle of nowhere, where I'm actually physically based. I'm in the garage. Where hubby has to use a shed to store all his stuff. So I've converted the garage into a workroom. I've got all my books in here. I've got the oven in here. The microwave at the moment is being loaned to the house because the one in the house went bang during lockdown.
Oh, that's not good, is it?
No, I've just bought myself a little hob, a little single hob, so I'm not backwards and forwards to the house every 5 minutes. Mm-hmm. So I do all my jams and curds and my caramel fillings down here in my workroom.
Very nice.
Yeah.
Lisa, do you just do wedding cakes in Peterborough, or do you do will you do them a bit further afield?
No, I go further afield. So I've been as far as Kettering, Northampton. I've been out Kings Lynn way, over to Norfolk. I've got a cake going to, I want to say Brassingham, but I'm sure that's the wrong place. But it's in Norfolk.
Right, okay, yeah.
The couple were really worried about taking it. So, yes, I'm going out there. Boston way, out to Grantham. So, yeah, just anywhere. It's probably about an hour and a half. I have been 2 hours, but 30 miles I include in the price of the cake. Mm-hmm. Anything over that, I charge 25p a mile. So I will go.
Yeah, just the cost of fuel, really, isn't it? You know, if you're having to sort of go that little bit further, isn't it?
Yeah.
So you actually cover like sort of quite a wide radius, don't you?
Yeah.
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 You know, as far up as Grantham, bearing in mind my geography is pretty rubbish. It really is. But
if I go from Crowland, if you come out past Spalding and hit the A17, that takes you straight out to the back of Sleaford. So then you're straight on to the A1, or you can go the A15 and it brings you out on the A1 at Colsterworth. So you're quite a way up the A1 anyway. So it's not, it's not too far.
Yeah, that's good. And do you assemble, I mean, if you were doing like a tier cake, would you assemble it there, Lisa, or would you have it assembled beforehand? Because I know back in the day, when I used to transport all of my cakes, you feel every bump in the road, don't you? You know, you're proper scary, isn't it, really?
So it depends on the cake. Some cakes need assembling before you go. But I try not to assemble more than 2 tiers. I had a little incident with somebody on the road. I was delivering a cake with a buttercream finish. So it was easier to take it 2 and 2. So there was 2 tiers and then another 2 tiers. As I was coming down the road, another car was coming towards me on my side of the road. So I braked suddenly and the cake didn't. Right. So I got it in the box with extensions on, with a lid, and as it slid towards the back seat on the car, where your back seat is angled, it hit the extension and pushed the extension into the box. Right. So some of the buttercream was on the inside of the box. So when I got to the venue, just hot water and a palette knife sorted it out. Had it been fondant, had it been in a bigger mess. So what I've now done, the back of our car, the seats come level, so 90 degrees. So when I'm transporting, they go 90 degrees, and our boot divides into half. So if I am having to travel with it part stacked, I make sure the back seats are level, the boot is in half, so the box is firm, and I've bought some non-slip mats that I put underneath. So they're not. But as in flowers and decorations and stuff, they go on when I'm there. I don't travel because you could end up with those in the floor if you're not lucky. So
yeah, that's the thing, isn't it? And you know, sort of flowers can be such delicate little creatures, can't they?
Yeah. But like if you're doing a ruffle, if your bottom tier is a ruffle tier and your ruffles are slightly above the bottom of the tier, if you leave them to dry and then try and put another tier on, getting the other tier on is difficult. So in that situation, I would put the second tier on the night before, leave it to settle, and then that would be transported in 2 tiers, and the rest might be singular. It might be in 2 tiers, but 2's the biggest I go. I don't go anything higher.
Yeah, and that's the thing. I suppose that's the difference, Lisa, between having maybe somebody that doesn't have your knowledge and experience making their cake to somebody that maybe might be quite good at knocking up a cake but doesn't have that understanding of how, because it's often sometimes when something goes wrong, isn't it, that you need to have, you need to call in the big guns, don't you? Somebody that knows how to actually fix something, isn't it?
Yeah, and it's when you've been to a venue and they go, as you there, they're going, hope you've dowelled that, and you'll go, of course I've dowelled it. Well, last week's didn't, and the cake collapsed. I'm thinking, probably auntie or grandma or somebody did it. And it's knowing that, you know, the taller the cake, the more support you've got to give it at the bottom. And what cakes like being covered. You know, certain cakes, the sponge is so soft that it doesn't like being a bottom tier.
No, that's right.
No matter how much you dowel it and stuff, it still doesn't like it. So
I mean, Lisa, I know what you're talking about with dowels, but just explain to anyone watching that maybe doesn't know what dowels are.
Right.
Where's she gone?
I've gone. Sorry, I've come down here.
Oh, there she is.
This is the dowel. They come in 2 widths. You can use, some people use wood, but they're saying nowadays with health and safety you shouldn't use wood because they can leave splinters in your cake, so that's not good with people eating it. But these are plastic, they're hollow, and you can just cut them. So you pop them into a cake. If you're using a 4-tier cake, I would always use a thick one. Pop it in, and I'd probably use, they reckon you should use a dowel per centimetre of your cake. But if you're doing a 12-inch cake, sticking 12 dowels in, that's a lot of cake that goes missing. So you just judge it. So you put one in the middle, cut it to the level, and then I bring this out and measure it for all the others. That then makes sure your tier is level. And then cut, probably I'd have 7 or 8 around the outside if it was a 12-inch. And then you pop those in so that then the board from the next cake sits on these. It doesn't sit on your cake. And if you've got a smaller cake, so as you're getting up the tiers, if you've got an 8-inch with a 6-inch sitting on it, I would still stick probably 5 or 6 dowels in, thin ones. But these don't take so much weight. These hardly. So yeah. You can get them that are solid, but they're harder to cut, and these have been proven to be quite good and they're quite handy. So yeah.
So it's just to sort of give your cake structure, so that it's like, well, I mean, it is a construction, isn't it? Putting something together. It's almost like creating a building as it goes up.
Yeah.
Then it has like firm foundations, isn't it?
Yeah.
And that's, I mean, like you say, we've all seen these dreadful pictures on Facebook, and if it's in Facebook, well, clearly it's right, isn't it? You know, awful cakes sort of doing this, isn't it?
Falling. Yeah.
And sadly, that's because they haven't been constructed. So, you know, like sort of a wedding cake, it's a lot more than just bake a cake, really, isn't it? You know, it's the mechanics behind it that actually makes it look kind of fabulous. Lisa, would you say that you have a particular style that you do, or is the world your oyster?
No, I like all sorts of things. I like amusement. I've got a bit of a warped sense of humour. Many of my friends will tell everybody that. So I like something that's a bit quirky. I like classic. I again believe less is more. The less fuss on your cake, the better it often looks. I like the two-sided things. That's what I mean by quirky, sort of classic on one side so that it looks an amazing cake, and then when you turn it round, it's got a bit of the bride and groom on there. So
they're real fun, aren't they? Because you can incorporate like a little bit of your personality into the cake, can't you? Yeah.
I've got one of my cakes for the show is a Disney one, half and half, and anybody that knows me knows I'm Disney through and through. So I would have had that for my wedding cake, but I didn't. But also, like, I've done a woodland theme one, and I wanted it just a bit different. So I went to a shop and I saw these little mice that they're just to die for. And the lady that made them, they're pots. The lady that made them used to do Beatrix Potter figurines before she had her children and bits. And now she just does these little mice. So I asked her if she'd commission me a bride and groom. So my little woodland one has got a bride and groom sitting on it. And she does them with the groom has a bow tie and a little ribbon on his hat, and she does them in the colours for the wedding. And the bride's flowers are the same, and it's, you know, just little bits that make it special.
It is.
I always ask the bride and groom if there's anything that's special to them, and we find somewhere to put it on the cake. I'd got a couple that called each other Toady.
All right. So
we made a couple of toads and stuck them on the cake, and it gave them a smile when they came in and saw it. So always try and make it special to the they might come with a picture and say, I like this, and by the time we've finished, it'll sort of resemble the picture, but it'll have their personal touches in it.
Yeah, because that's the thing that you actually want. Excuse me, because each cake, it kind of needs to be that little bit special. And I mean, most brides, I mean, occasionally grooms, but kind of most brides got the Pinterest account, haven't they? Got it all going on there, and they're pinning absolutely everything, don't they? And as you say, people can come in and they can say, that's the cake I want. But once you get talking to them, yes, it's probably, you know, sort of something like that, but then putting their own kind of, you know, stamp on it, isn't it?
Yeah. And I also, I do a little sort of sketch at the beginning, so they've got an idea of what they're looking at. But I'm one of those lucky brides that walked past my cake as I went to say my vows. And so as I'm walking in, nervous anyway, I looked over and I thought, that's not what I asked for. And thought, oh, so what we do now is that I have a very lovely friend that I discovered can draw. So we sit down together, we're very much on the same wavelength. As if I say to her, oh, it's got such and such and so on it, she'll sketch it out and go, is that what you mean? I go, yes, spot on. So she does a pencil drawing of the cake, of how it is in my mind. I then send that to the bride. She will share it with the groom, of course. Normally about a week to 2 weeks before the wedding, say, is this what you had in mind? And then I make the cake from the drawing. I then frame it in theme with their wedding, and leave it with them with the wedding cake, because it sounds silly, but I don't need it after I've made the cake. So they're welcome to it, and it has their name on the top, and it has little details of the cake, like small icing ribbons, or you know, buttercream roses or stuff that's on there. It's all written on there, a bit like you get on the Bake Off.
All right.
So, and then that's theirs to keep. So
that's lovely. So they've actually got that, but sort of years after. I mean, clearly long after the cake is gone. And,
very long after.
Very long after the cake is gone. But most sort of couples would have almost like a memory box of their wedding day, don't they? You have cards and bits and pieces and colours and, you know, all that stuff that sort of goes in. And that's nice to be able to sort of have something like that, to be able to put into your memory box, isn't it?
Yeah.
Excellent. And Lisa, what if like a couple come to you and they have absolutely no idea, you know, because not everybody sort of knows, do they? I mean, are you able to sort of help them, you know, steer in the right direction?
So we start off with flavour. So they try their cake when they come and chat, or at the moment what I'm doing is sending the cake out in the post, and we're doing a video link while they're eating cake. Often they've eaten the cake by the time we get to do the video link. So then we talk about them, we talk about their wedding, what they've got in mind, whether they've got a colour theme designed already, where they're getting married, because that often will bring into what sort of theme they've got. So if they're getting married in an old stately home, for argument's sake, they would probably want a very classic cake. They're not going to want something like one of my dummies that says, eat, drink, we are married.
Yeah, that's right.
So we'll look at that sort of theme. Had somebody that got married at Burley. So she wanted very classic. So it was very classic. It had peonies on it, and it just literally had lines in the fondant. But when you put it together, when you spoke about it, we started off, she wanted ruffles in buttercream. So then we spoke about the date that she was getting married and the weather, and that perhaps the fact it was going to be sat in a window wasn't quite appropriate. And the whole process, so the whole process sort of evolved. Even if we didn't come to an absolute design on the day, we decided on the flavours. And over the following year, I think it was about 3 months before the wedding, we got the final design down, because things kept changing with the wedding. Not the venue, they changed one of the rooms, so it was slightly different. So normally about 4 weeks before the wedding, we have a final decision on what we definitely want. By that time, the couple definitely know what they're having, because when we meet like a year, 18 months beforehand, they might not know what colour themes they're having.
Yeah,
they might not know what flowers they're having. They might not, they'll know, if they've got any special ideas or things they want. You get couples that venues change because something happens at one of the venues. So suddenly you've gone from something really quirky to something that's a lot more classy. So normally about 4 weeks before the wedding, I'll message the couple and say, right, are we still on for this colour? Are you still wanting exactly the same, or have we got any changes? Because 18 months ago, when you thought pale blue was a lovely colour, you might have been to 2 weddings and both the bridesmaids are in pale blue, so you don't want to be the same as everybody else, so you changed it to plum. So you don't want a wedding cake with pale blue ribbon on. So
I think that's good, because sometimes couples do get a little bit wary about maybe trying to sort of book like a cake maker too far in advance, because they think, well, I have no idea. But so it's kind of good to know that it can evolve, can't it? But what you're really doing, I mean, Lisa obviously comes along to truly scrumptious wedding shows. So you can go ahead, because what you're really doing is you're saving the date, aren't you? You're sort of getting the date there. And then you can worry about, like you say, all the other details afterwards, can't you?
And you might find that your budget you've got for your cake, suddenly something else comes in a bit cheaper. So I've got a few brides, like dads and father-in-laws, really like fruitcake, but nobody else likes fruitcake. So we discussed, we make a little heart fruitcake, and dads and, because mums and mother-in-laws always get bouquets, dads and father-in-laws get nothing, or very little. So we make them their own little individual fruitcake for them, and it's enough for, probably 2 sittings, it'll be gone. So we do stuff like that, but it's stuff like that they don't add on at the beginning. But 4 weeks before the wedding, when they discover they've actually got a little bit of money left over, let's add that to it. Things like the cupcake bouquets, if you're not sure about flowers or stuff, or your mother's a real foodie, or even for the bridesmaids, we can do little cupcake bouquets and they can have that instead. So it's always evolving, keep in touch, and I still hear from a lot of the brides afterwards, because they still want to chat, really.
Well, that's lovely though, because you sort of get to know people quite well over that period of time, and because you have got regular chats with them and things, then you're actually a part of what they're doing. That's really nice, isn't it? And I have to say, Lisa, I've seen your cupcake bouquets, and I think you're underplaying them there. They are absolutely gorgeous, and the icing and everything on the flowers, it's exquisite. That's a very big word, isn't it? Exquisite. They really, really are beautiful. So if someone was thinking about, as I said, like some little bouquets, because often it's flowers that you sort of give like sort of the mums and what have you. But I think the whole cupcake bouquet option is really good, a little bit different, and something that they can keep, because often as well, like maybe after the wedding, people are still hanging around like sort of the next day, isn't it? Especially if you have guests and things that travel from somewhere else, and if brides and what have you are all back at their moms or what have you, there's cake there, isn't there? And like little bouquets and things to actually do it. Lisa, what about flavours?
Okay. At the moment I do 18. I've got a list of 18 flavours.
A lot of flavours, isn't it?
It is a lot of flavours. And what I've been doing is offering people the choice of 6 for a wedding consultation. But I'm finding I'm getting a lot of cake wasted, and hubby and the kids are putting it, well, and me, putting a bit of weight on because it's got to be eaten by somebody. And my neighbours certainly complaining that they get too much cake. So I've decided that I will still do the 18 flavours if people want them for their cakes. But I'm doing a survey at the moment where I'm trying to break it down to 8 flavours that I will provide for cake tasting for the wedding consult. So I'll provide these 8 flavours. If, however, the couple taste the flavours so they know I can make cake, it's not a packet mix, it's not, you know, it's nothing out of a jar, there's no numbers in there, it's all natural flavourings. I don't use essences, flavourings, anything like that. So they know I can make cake. If they don't want any of the 8 flavours for their wedding cake, I have got a list of 18 flavours that are recipes that I've tried. So my chocolate cake was I made 7 chocolate cakes and I did a blind tasting. And I got friends round and said, help yourself, tell me which one you prefer, leave a little button by the one you prefer. And that is the cake I now use. So I will try 2 or 3 recipes of a certain flavour to get the cake right to how I'm happy with. My latest flavour, if you like Turkish Delight, oh, it's to die for. It's pistachio and rose.
Oh, nice.
It is gorgeous. And the sponge in it is so light. Yeah, it's just completely different because you use your pistachio nuts ground down as part of your flour. It's, yeah, but obviously you can't have a nut allergy and have that one.
No.
And with the rose buttercream and the rose drizzle through it, again, I've slightly amended the original recipe. So it has like a drizzle through it of rose water, like you get with a lemon drizzle. And then the buttercream is supposed to just be rose, but I've been putting crunched up pistachios in it, and it's it is
kind of give it like a little bit of texture as well, wouldn't it? A little bit.
And it is, but you've got to like Turkish Delight. It's that sort of flavour. So
really, couples are almost spoilt for choice. Do you tend to find that it sort of goes in fads, and everybody's saying maybe having red velvet, or everyone's having, I don't know, carrot or something, or does it just really come down to your own personal choice?
It does come down to their own personal choice, but the thing I'm making more of at the moment than I've made for years is fruitcake.
Fruitcake. Now that's interesting, isn't it? Because lots of people say, I mean, I know back in the days, I said when I used to make cakes, a lot of the time I used to make like a little separate almost kitchen cake, so fruitcake, because it was always your granny, wasn't it? You can't have a wedding if you haven't got a bit of a fruitcake. So the couple, they would have various things in their cake, but then we would do this separate. So it's interesting to know that more and more people are having like a little bit of fruitcake now.
We also do, give people the option of, at the moment, the really tall tiers are trending. So if you're having a 3-tier cake, but each tier is 6 inches tall, you could actually have 2 flavours in each tier. And so you do a 3-inch cake for the bottom, so you could have vanilla, and a board goes in between it, and then you could have your chocolate above it. So you could actually have 6 different flavours in a 3-tier cake.
Wow.
Or you can stick a dummy cake in the middle and have a couple of cutting cakes, so you can have your different flavours. So if you've only got 50 guests coming, you could have your bottom tier as your cake, the other 2, 3, 4 tiers, however many you wanted, as dummies, and then enough cake for your guests that are pre-made, filled like they would be in a wedding cake. I've got a bit of icing on so they look as though they've come out the wedding cake. Nobody knows. But you're also not paying for cake that's not going to be eaten and is wasted. And you can have a stunning cake still for your photos and bits. But
that's the thing, because excuse me, not many people, if you're not having like sort of a bigger wedding, but you still want to have that grandeur almost, don't you? This big beautiful cake, whether it's 3, 4 or 5 tiers or whatever, but you just don't want to get loused out with cake.
No.
You'll have it coming out of your ears, won't you?
And you don't want to pay for stuff you don't need. So I say to couples, when they say, oh, what can I have? I say, you can have what the hell you like. You tell me what you want. I will tell you how much cake you need, and we'll substitute dummies in. All I do is, so if somebody's wants a 5-tier cake, but only needs enough cake for 2 of those tiers, which I had for a couple that got married at the George at Stamford.
Mm-hmm.
So only 2 of the tiers were cake. The other 5 were dummies, and the cake was really tall, looked absolutely stunning. And then all I did was I charged them a deposit for the dummy, and when I get the dummy back, they get that deposit back. They just pay for the icing on the outside, because once I sterilise the dummy, I can use it again. Yeah. So I'm not having a cost out all the time. And that's what this couple did. They just returned the dummies undamaged, and they got their deposit back. So for them, they could have an amazing cake that looked wow in the venue, but weren't paying for cake that they didn't need.
Didn't necessarily need. Yeah. So Lisa, how soon, if someone wanted to actually book you, how soon should they be booking in advance?
I would say a year to 18 months. At the moment, we're potentially looking at opening 2022 bookings, because of course most of 2020's cakes have gone into 2021. I was fully booked for 2020. Needless to say, I'm not now. But at the moment, I'm not making a wedding cake until I think the end of August, beginning of September, because they've all postponed. But they've postponed to next year. Yeah. So so I've had to open 2022 books, because otherwise it's not fair. And some weeks I don't make any more than 2 a week. Some weeks next year I'm having to do 3, because I'd already got somebody booked for 2021, and then couples that were postponing saying, can you do the cake on whenever? And I'm just saying, I've just said yes to everybody apart from one. I've said yes to everybody, because this isn't their fault. You can't. No. And it's a horrible situation. But the one I have said no to at the moment is when I'm away with my husband for my 10th wedding anniversary. Well, there you go. I'm not in the country, so you're entitled, aren't you? Entitled. Yeah.
I think next year also, not everyone will be getting married sort of like on a Saturday, because everyone's having to try and incorporate, maybe do something slightly different next year, isn't it? So I think there are going to be more weddings taking place. Maybe it's on Fridays during the week, sort of like different Sundays, isn't it? Yeah, Sundays as well are seeming popular at the moment. So yeah, and it's it gives me more time to make flowers. So, Lisa, but obviously with everything going on at the moment, you can't meet people at wedding shows, where you kind of normally would do, or you can't do sort of the consultations. But I think it's important that people know that they can still sort of get in touch, and they can still do a consultation. But like you say, you're sort of doing it over the video or Zoom or something, isn't it?
So you can use Zoom. We do FaceTime. Messenger does videoing. So yeah, there's lots of ways of doing like we're doing. And I send the cake out a few days beforehand, or if they're local, I'll do what I do. I'll do what I do with my cupcakes, and I do a knock and run. I'm very good at that. Drop the cake at the door, knock on the door, and then leave and stand sort of on the path outside the house, wait for them to answer, just so I know that they've got it, and then say, I'll speak to you, on Saturday, on Friday, as we've got planned. That used to be a very popular game for my children when they were small, not your run. It was me. Yeah.
Slightly different version of it now, but yeah, that's the concept, isn't it? Really.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's. Go on.
Sorry, Lisa. I said it kind of goes without saying, obviously, that you are registered with all the appropriate people and authorities and bodies and things.
Yeah. We've got 5-star environmental health. We're insured, public liability insurance, and insurance on, the garage.
Yeah.
And I've got level 2 food hygiene, which are all, well, I would say they're all up to date. They are all up to date at the moment.
Yeah.
It needs to be in September this year. So my all my other bits, it's whether everybody's back working as to whether environmental health are going to come and
I'm sure they will. I'm sure they will. Yeah.
But yeah, we're all up to date, and one of the reasons I'm down the garage is because I've got pets, and it just means that the stuff that's in here is away from them. Yeah. We even went so far as buying a second washing machine, and the dog beds and cat beds and anything related to the cats and dogs only go in one washing machine, and our stuff, and certainly my business stuff, my aprons and bits, go in a separate washing machine, so I'm not even contaminating animal hairs. I'm a little bit fastidious on that side.
That's good though, isn't it? It's quite reassuring to sort of know that it's the cake's coming from somewhere where all the boxes have been ticked and that there's no kind of issues or anything like that at all. Okay, Lisa, just before I let you go, if you had to give you've obviously been doing this a really long time, if you had to give couples a wedding tip or a piece of advice, what would it be?
Oh gosh, enjoy it, I think. It's not about, for me, I would say it's not about the guests. It is about the guests because it's nice to see them, but it's your day, and try not to lose sight of the fact that you're actually doing it because you want to be with that person for the rest of your life. And it's about you too. The amount of people that come and say, oh, we can't have that cake because although we like it, Auntie so-and-so won't like it. Well, have a tier that Auntie so-and-so likes. It is your day. These people are coming to celebrate it with you because they're pleased that you are getting together, but don't lose sight of the fact that you're doing it because you want to be with that person, not because it's a big show, not because it's a big elaborate thing that your friends will go, oh wow, they spent X amount of money on. It's about the person you're marrying.
Yeah, and I think that's really good, because sometimes you can almost get bogged down in the details, don't you? And it can all get a bit overwhelming, and you almost forget, if that makes any kind of sense. You sort of lose sight a little bit of what it is that you're actually doing. I mean, I always used to say to my couples, in fact I still do, enjoy every minute, because it goes in a heartbeat, doesn't it? You spend all this time planning it, and then boom, it's done.
Yeah, and the most important thing I found, I mean, it's 9 years this year, so it'll be 10 years next year. I found for me, the most important thing wasn't about the money of the wedding, wasn't about getting dressed, it wasn't about my makeup, it wasn't about my hair. My first question was, is he there? Did he actually stay? Has he arrived? And even when it came to just before I walked to meet him, I said to my friend who gave me away, can you just check he's there? And the wedding organizer, is he there? And that was all I was worried about. And from that moment, the only person I actually saw was him. All of my friends say, did you see me wave as he walked? No. It was just him. And it was the fact that you're actually saying to the whole world, this is the person I love, this is the person I want to be with.
That's the money shot, isn't it? That moment, when you first see each other, and like you say, after you've reassured yourself the fact they're actually stood there waiting for you, heart of hearts, the fact that they're actually there, and you make your entrance, and you actually see each other for the first time, and that's what a wedding day is all about, isn't it? That little money shot, isn't it? Yeah. Okay, Lisa, right. Really nice speaking to you. What I'm going to do then, I will put Lisa's details in the comments when we actually post this out. So we'll put Lisa's website, we'll put your telephone number, and we will put your email. Lisa is also in the Truly Scrumptious Wedding Hub, so you can find her there. We'll post this out on into the hub. We'll pop it over on the main Truly Scrumptious page as well. We'll put it on Instagram. And we'll put it over on the YouTube channel, because we now have one of those. Never had one before, but get me, I've actually got one now.
I know.
I'm kind of getting with it, really. But yeah, and that's getting lots of people are sort of viewing things on there, so that's good. So as I said, Lisa's details will be in the comments. So regardless of where you see it, or even when you see it, I mean, normally I would say to people, you can speak to Lisa at the virtual wedding show coming up this weekend. Well, there's not actually one coming up this weekend, but we have them on like an ongoing basis, so you'll be able to actually do that. Okay, so thank you ever so much, Lisa. It was lovely speaking to you, and thank you again for the lemon curd.
You're welcome.
Loved it, really loved it.
All right.
All right, then. Speak to you again, Lisa.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.